Hello, Viking.TV. My name is Aaron Lawton. I'm the Expedition Operations Manager for Viking Expeditions. I've been with Viking for the last 16 months, and I'm very happy to share my excitement about expedition cruising in the Great Lakes with you today. I'm Canadian, raising my family in Squamish, British Columbia, and over the course of my life, I've lived in many parts of Canada, including the Yukon Territory, Nova Scotia, on the prairies, and in Ontario. I'm so very excited to share my passion for the Great Lakes and specifically this itinerary today, as it's one of our newest expedition sailings. I left the Great Lakes, and specifically Georgian Bay, in August of 1998 to start expedition cruising, and I've been involved in the expedition cruising industry since then. An expedition voyage is for those of you who have dreamed of discovering truly remote wilderness. Viking has created the ultimate itineraries designed to take you to the Great Lakes, the Arctic, and Antarctica. Magnificent wildlife and dramatic unexplored landscapes will unfold before you during landings and excursions, and as you relax in the comfort of your state-of-the-art stateroom. Today, we'll focus on one of our signature expedition voyages in North America called Undiscovered Great Lakes. In 8 days, you'll discover Ontario, Canada, and 3 states in the northern U.S., namely Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, as you sail across Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. But let's start with the video. Afterwards, we'll move through the presentation, and Joost and I will be there to answer your questions following.
Set out with Viking for 8 enriching days to view the Great Lakes through an entirely new lens. Your journey begins with an overnight in Ontario's Thunder Bay, home to one of the largest settlements of Finnish people outside of Finland. That heritage is especially reflected in the town's love for thin, crispy pancakes and their quaint, inviting saunas. You'll sail southwest on Lake Superior, headed for Duluth, Minnesota, known for its stately Jacobean-inspired architecture and engineering marvels. In Wisconsin's Apostle Islands, explore its intriguing caves. This surreal labyrinth carved by waves and countless cycles of freezing and thawing will delight your imagination. Your purpose-built Viking vessel is an ideal base from which to explore and learn. A floating classroom sharing the science behind the fascinating ecosystems you're sailing through. And your expedition-class ship is equipped with watercraft, so you can investigate intriguing shorelines up close whenever possible. Waterways that are home to some of North America's most iconic wildlife, including the bald eagle. The opportunities to immerse yourself in nature are plentiful, including your next port, Houghton, on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Blessed with hundreds of miles of rivers and streams, Houghton was originally known for copper mining and named after a geologist. Your voyage continues across tranquil Lake Superior to the Sioux Locks, a National Historic Landmark, where you'll transit to the lower Great Lakes. Since the 1850s, these locks have made it possible to travel from Minnesota all the way to the distant Atlantic Ocean. On beautiful Lake Huron, it may feel as though you've stepped back in time when you reach Michigan's Mackinac Island. This sleepy, carless village was originally founded in 1780. Your memorable Viking voyage concludes along the shores of Lake Michigan in Milwaukee. With revitalized districts like the historic 3rd Ward and a rich culinary history, it's a fitting end to your exploration of the Great Lakes.
As you may know, Viking was founded in 1997, sailing the rivers of Russia. We then expanded across Europe and into Egypt and China. Then we perfected ocean cruising. Now, Viking is proud to offer you expedition voyages. Explore the Great Lakes along with the northern and southern ends of the Earth, the Arctic and Antarctica. Today, we will focus on the largest freshwater ecosystems on Earth, the North American Great Lakes. They are a chain of 5 large freshwater lakes on the border of Canada and the United States. The Great Lakes include, from east to west, Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, Lake Michigan, and Lake Superior. Here on the Great Lakes, you will experience outstanding natural beauty and historic cities. The Great Lakes are an undiscovered treasure, boasting stunning national parks best explored by tranquil kayaking and hiking. These waters span over 750 miles across and feature over 10,000 miles of coastline. This area is also rich in culture, with world-class museums, vibrant cities, and areas steeped in First Nations traditions. On this itinerary, Undiscovered Great Lakes, we will focus on Lake Superior in the upper left, Lake Huron in the center, and Lake Michigan in the lower left. Now let's look at how you will travel from Canada down to the northern United States. Over 8 days, you will visit 2 countries, Canada and the U.S. Undiscovered Great Lakes embarks in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, where you'll have an overnight stay, allowing you to maximize your time here in northern Ontario. Then it's on to the northern United States, Duluth, Minnesota, Apostle Islands, Wisconsin, Houghton, Michigan. Then you'll have some time to relax on board your ship as you pass through the Soo Locks Transit, traveling from Lake Superior to Lake Huron on your way to Lake Michigan. Mackinac Island, Michigan will be your first port of call on Lake Michigan, followed by Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where your journey with Viking concludes. Let's look at the itinerary map for a visual of your itinerary route. As you can see, we have 4 ports of call on Lake Superior. We follow that with a scenic sailing through the Soo Locks between the cities of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario and Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Finally, your last 2 ports of call are on Lake Michigan. And if you'd like to arrive early and experience more of Canada prior to your sailing, we have an incredible pre-extension available in Manitoba and Ontario. Churchill on Hudson Bay is a 5-night package that is perfect for nature lovers. You will experience the polar bear capital of the world and potentially see a summer polar bear or even beluga whales and Arctic foxes. Currently, this itinerary is offered from late spring to summer, from May to September. Even in the summer months, you can expect 3 to 4 inches of rain on Lake Superior, so you'll want to pack quick drying and waterproof clothing and accessories. The weather is the most pleasant in the spring and autumn, May and June and September, October, but be aware of mosquitoes in June. July and August tend to be the hottest, most humid months for Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. What if you'd like to maximize your opportunity to see wildlife? Millions of migratory birds pass through the region during their spring and fall migrations, so those are good times to book your trip. For a better chance of spotting bears or other large mammals, you might sail this itinerary in the springtime after the long winter, or again in September when the weather starts to cool off and wildlife begin their migration from their summer habitat to prepare for winter hibernation. Now, a few words about our expedition ships. We have applied more than 2 decades of experience and expertise in river and ocean voyages to create the perfect expedition experience that will live up to our commitment to keep you exploring the world in comfort. Here is a quote from the famous Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen that speaks to the intention and thought behind the design of our brand new, state-of-the-art Polar Class 6 expedition ships, Viking Octantis and Viking Polaris. He said, "I may say that this is the greatest factor, the way in which the expedition is equipped, the way in which every difficulty is foreseen, and precautions taken for meeting or avoiding it. Victory awaits him who has everything in order." For expedition voyages, Viking is proud to introduce 2 new purpose-built ships optimally sized for expeditions, small enough to navigate remote areas, yet large enough to provide speed, superior handling, and stability in the roughest seas. Throughout the ships, there is a focus on panoramic views, so you'll be as close as possible to the most majestic scenery on Earth. Let's learn more about our ship design in this video.
Creating an expedition ship worthy of the Viking name is no small endeavour, especially when our award-winning ocean and river fleet have set such high standards. When designing vessels to bring our guests to the ends of the earth and back, every part of the ship operations and guest experience has to be carefully considered, and every step of the way guided by our chairman Torstein Hagen, whose attention to detail is second to none. To optimize safety, comfort, and guest flow, the design process was, as usual, an ongoing collaboration of many people, involving our maritime architects, interior designers, and all key departments at Viking. It's a global effort, tapping the expertise and experience of our nautical and technical staff, expedition leaders, enrichment officers, food and beverage, and hotel operations. The goal? To ensure that when our guests set off to explore the polar regions with us, they'll enjoy the same onboard ambiance and our commitment to learning and discovery that's long distinguished Viking from the others. With all this collective wisdom in hand, construction of our first expedition vessel began on October 30th, 2019, with the ceremonial first cutting of steel at the shipyard. The next major milestone is the keel laying. Stay tuned.
Our vessels merge comfort and exploration in an unprecedented way. This optimized size also facilitates enhanced enrichment activities by carrying a fleet of zodiacs, ribs, or rigid inflatable boats, tandem kayaks, and six-seater submarines, and providing outstanding venues for onboard lectures and learning. We further perfect the expedition experience by providing easy access to our zodiacs and tenders through 9 shell doors located around the ship, enabling launching from the most protected section of the ship, and our onboard wet laboratory, providing a hub for our science and citizen science programs, further enabling discovery and immersion into your destinations. Let's jump to a video of the hangar, a unique and exclusive to Viking in-ship marina sheltered from wind and waves. If you've traveled with Viking before, you know that we have the most knowledgeable tour guides. On board our expedition vessels, you will travel with a team of specialists unparalleled in the industry, supplemented by trained guides and naturalists. In addition, our field research coordinator and field research scientists will bridge the expedition experience in our science program, integrating experiential activities and fieldwork for those interested. Some of the best shore excursions on this itinerary include hiking and kayaking, and our onboard guides will work with our local guides in each region to enhance your experience. On our expedition itineraries, all excursions are included in your cruise fare to ensure you maximize your discoveries. Viking has partnered with leading globally recognized institutions to enrich your experience. Here are 4 key partners. Scientists from University of Cambridge's Scott Polar Research Institute will undertake fieldwork on board our expedition ships. Ornithologists of the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, a bird research facility, will regularly be on board, field testing new observation methods and providing advice to guests. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is an American scientific agency within the United States Department of Commerce that focuses on the conditions of the oceans, major waterways, and the atmosphere. Our partner institutions provide each expedition's field research scientists. Every journey will be accompanied by a team of at least 25 experts, including our Viking expedition team and field research scientists, ranging from biologists, botanists, geologists, glaciologists, oceanographers, and ornithologists, to polar experts and researchers, depending on the region. These scientists will work in our onboard laboratory and offer guests a unique opportunity to learn about and participate in ongoing research. Now let's explore this 8-day itinerary, day by day. On day 1, we welcome you to Thunder Bay, Ontario, where your voyage begins. This region is home to Fort William Historic Village, which paints an accurate recreation of an early 19th century fur trading post. Shown in this image is one of the area's most iconic sites, Kakabeka Falls. Its nickname is Niagara of the North. Some of you will join your ship after your Winnipeg and Churchill pre-extension stay, while others will arrive in Canada today. If you've arranged air travel through Viking, we'll transfer you from the airport to the awaiting expedition ship. You'll have time to get settled in and then attend a briefing for the following day. We remain in Thunder Bay overnight and continue our exploration of the Thunder Bay region on day 2. You might choose to glide across the placid waters of Lake Superior in a rigid inflatable boat, or rib, to tiny Thompson Island, then disembark in search of billion-year-old geological wonders. If you prefer a more active pursuit, head out to Sleeping Giant Provincial Park and hike along the shores of Lake Superior, enjoying the old-growth forest protected within this park. Keep watch for local wildlife as you hike through striking natural scenery. A wide variety of wildlife calls the Thunder Bay region home. The more eyes we have looking for wildlife, the better chance we have of spotting it. We may be fortunate enough to see bald eagles, blue jays, and white-throated sparrows, or at least hear the white-throated sparrows. On the furry side, we'll keep our eyes peeled for moose, black bear, white-tailed deer, fox, beaver, and otters. Anglers have been coming to this region to catch walleye, muskie, pike, and bass. Be sure to bring your binoculars when heading out on an excursion in search of wildlife. These have been chosen specifically for their functionality when wildlife spotting and can be found in your cabin. Our expert guides and naturalists will happily share tricks on how to use them if you're relatively new to wildlife spotting. The downtown area of Thunder Bay is a vibrant restaurant and bar district within walking distance of the ship. A favorite treat of the region is the Persian roll, pictured here. This iconic cinnamon bun is topped with pink berry icing, making it almost irresistible. If cinnamon buns are your weakness, be sure to find this treat before we leave Thunder Bay and head south. Sailing on, we leave Canada behind and welcome you to the United States at the port of Duluth, Minnesota. Here you will have the opportunity to ride a vintage steam locomotive or learn about Duluth's role in the Great Lakes shipping industry during a visit to the SS William A. Irvin Lake Freighter. Also, at Duluth's downtown waterfront, you'll find the Great Lakes Aquarium, which is home to 205 different species of fish, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals. Enjoy the opportunity to marvel at its two-story, 85,000-gallon tank stocked with fish species from the Great Lakes, or learn about North American river otters at Otter Cove. Just outside of Duluth, you can learn about birds of prey at the Hawk Ridge Bird Observatory. Every year, hundreds of thousands of migrating raptors converge along the western tip of Lake Superior. Keep watch for golden and bald eagles, turkey vultures, northern harriers, and rare peregrine falcons. Day 4 brings us to the lovely state of Wisconsin and the midway point of our journey. We will visit the town of Bayfield, our jumping point for the Apostle Islands National Lakeshore. Here you can explore by kayak the vaulted chambers of the ever-changing sea caves that line local shores, or learn the art of seamanship while sailing the waters between the islands. By kayak, you can see firsthand the effect of waves from Lake Superior on the cliffs of the Bayfield Peninsula, carving delicate arches, vaulted chambers, and hidden passageways into the red and gold-streaked sandstone. Many of these geologic features can only be reached from the water. Gain insight from your local guides into the process of their creation and learn how, because of the fragile nature of the sandstone, the caves are in a constant state of transformation, gradually changing over time. This is Devil's Island, the northernmost island in the archipelago. After learning about the sandstone rock that makes up the island's surface, you'll view the late 19th century lighthouse that guards the island's northern tip, and then explore the carnivorous plants at Stockton Island. This island is the largest of the archipelago and home to the highest concentration of black bears in North America. As we awake on day 5, we discover that we have arrived in Houghton, Michigan. One of the highlights of the city of Houghton is the beautiful cascading vales of the Hungarian Falls. You can get there during a hike through the Keweenaw Peninsula with your naturalist guide, who will lead you along a path through mixed hardwood forests of maple, oak, and birch, as well as pine and hemlock. If you are traveling this region in the fall, the mixed hardwood forest will explode with vibrant colors. You can get to know Houghton by foot on a guided walk through its downtown and waterfront. You'll learn more about the city's booming copper mining sector of the 19th and 20th centuries. You'll see such landmarks as the Portage Lake lift bridge, which is shown here. It's the only link between the two halves of the Keweenaw Peninsula connecting Houghton and Hancock. To learn more about the area's copper mining history, you can visit the Keweenaw National Historic Park. Exhibits showcase the history of mining, learn how indigenous people began mining in the region more than 7,000 years ago, a practice that continued up until the last mine closed during the 1960s. Then you'll retrace the steps of thousands of miners with a guided descent to the 7th level of the mine. Learn about life underground and witness a live demonstration of drilling equipment. We have explored the south and west coasts of Lake Superior and now proceed to Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. As we mentioned earlier, this itinerary includes 1 day of scenic sailing. On day 6, you will have a front row seat for some of America's most beautiful scenery. From here or in the Explorer's Lounge, you can enjoy the stillness of dawn while watching the sun rise over the lake. We will take advantage of this forced time aboard with many activities available. For instance, you might join a live lecture to hear the theories surrounding the mysterious sinking of the Great Lakes freighter, Edmund Fitzgerald, or the mighty Fitz, which lies on the bottom of Lake Superior off treacherous Whitefish Point. You can choose to join our scientists and assist in the deployment of current tracking buoys, or support them in the lab with other field research monitoring. Or perhaps this is the perfect opportunity to indulge in a treatment at the spa. Because soon enough, we're ready to explore charming Mackinac Island, a 4-square-mile island that is also a National Historic Landmark. This island is situated within the Straits of Mackinac, which link Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. Mackinac Island is only accessible by boat. Interestingly, motor vehicles are banned here, making it a haven for pedestrians and cyclists. One of the most striking natural wonders on Mackinac Island is Arch Rock. It can be accessed by kayak with your guide. From here, you can take in scenic views of the Mackinac Bridge, Stoic Island lighthouses, and the West Bluff. For something more relaxed, you can discover historic Mackinac by horse-drawn carriage. You will see Fort Mackinac, one of the few surviving Revolutionary War fortresses still in existence. You can admire the elegant facade of the Victorian-era Grand Hotel, a vacation destination for several U.S. presidents. The hotel's 660-foot-long front porch is billed as the longest in the world. Your journey with Viking concludes in Milwaukee. After breakfast on board, many of you will disembark and proceed to the airport for your return flight home. Some of you may opt to continue your voyage with our post-extension package. We have a very special 2-night post-extension package in Chicago. This is perfect for art and architecture lovers. Thank you for joining me today for this journey through our Undiscovered Great Lakes itinerary on Viking.TV. This concludes our presentation, and now it's time for your questions. Over to you, Heather.
Thank you, Aaron. We've got some lovely questions that have come in from the audience. I'll start with a first one from Audrey in the United Kingdom. And Audrey says, when will the expedition ship itineraries be available on My Viking Journey, please?
I'll take that one. They will be about the same, and I'm sure you're talking about shore excursions. So they will be available about the same time as we would normally do for shore excursions on ocean cruises, which is, it starts about 120 days out. But you can look at them a lot earlier than that. As soon as we finalize the program. And there's a lot of the program that you can already find online and in brochures, but we have some, Aaron in particular is still working on some things that you will find, and we'll put them online as quickly as we can, really. There's more than what meets the eye right now on our website. So stay tuned.
Wonderful, thank you, Joost. Our next question comes from Barbara in Seattle, and she says, might it be possible to combine this cruise with any of Viking's other Great Lake itineraries?
That's a great idea. Yes. Yes. You can basically, if you wanted to, you can do all 3 of them.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joost. Cindy in the United States asks, is this trip going in the summer of 2022?
Yes, it is. Yeah. We have 7 dates, 7 sailings in the summer of 2022.
Fantastic. Laura in Los Angeles says, can you see the Northern Lights from the Great Lakes area?
Aaron?
Yes, the Northern Lights are not something we want to promise in this area. On Lake Superior on this voyage, late summer into the early fall departures, I think there's a chance, and certainly the captain and the officers on the bridge are very aware of our desire to see them if they're out, being that the officers are on the bridge all night. As soon as there is a Northern Lights seen, they will notify us, and we'll notify those who are interested in seeing the Northern Lights. So once we get into that time of the season, we'll make sure everyone knows that there's an opportunity and how to sign up for a wake-up call if it happens.
Wonderful, thank you. Our next question comes from Risa in South Orange, and she says, are the submarines available on the Great Lakes cruises?
Aaron, that's for you.
Yes, on some of the itineraries, the submarines are available. We deal with, in U.S. waters, we deal with some various shipping acts and regulations that makes it unlikely we'll use the submarines in U.S. waters. We're still working with the U.S. Coast Guard and on understanding permissions and so on. We do hope to have some use of them for the science program and supporting our science partnerships with NOAA, the Great Lakes Environmental Research Laboratory. But as to passenger use, we're still waiting for that confirmation. On the first day of the departure, we stay in Thunder Bay overnight, and we'll be there for the next day to explore the Thunder Bay region. And there's a good chance, if weather permits, we'll get the subs on the water that day.
Fantastic, thank you. Stephen in Henderson in the United States says, is the April 2022 New York to Milwaukee inaugural cruise on the Octanus scheduled to go? And if so, will there be any pre-cruise options in New York?
We currently don't have anything scheduled, and that just really has to do with the fact that we think New York is such an easy and such an accessible destination that it doesn't really fit the kind of programming that we do on the expedition ships to create something like this. But I'm sure that we will have options available just for people to, if you will, position themselves before they start cruising. Yes.
Fantastic, thank you, Joost. Bonnie in the United States says, is it possible to do more than one excursion on any given day?
Yes, Bonnie, that's a great question. I'm excited to hear it. There's some of our activities, some of our excursions will be full day length excursions. Many of the places we visit will have, we will be presenting you with a suite of activities, and you'll have time to pick multiple activities during the day. We'll have them set up so that you can couple different interests together into a day. We'll also have a set of activities that happen just about every day. That if you want to walk with our birder and do some bird spotting, that'll be at a known time every day, and so you can add those in around your other excursion activities.
Fantastic, thank you. And as you just mentioned birds, we have a question from Jodie in the United Kingdom, and she says, I enjoyed the presentation with Cornell Bird Observatory on Monday. Can you tell us what the bird watching opportunities will be like on this journey?
That's great. I too very much enjoyed that presentation with Cornell, and I will first say that I am not a birder, especially on the likes of the caliber that we heard from on Monday. However, I'm a keen naturalist, and bird opportunities really anywhere we're going on the trip. We're going to be in I guess bird migration territory, especially in the spring and the fall, as the birds fly north in the spring and they fly back south in the fall. We have an opportunity in Duluth where we'll be visiting the Raptor Center, and I think that's quite exciting. We'll learn about the issues with the collapse of the raptor populations in the 70s, in late 70s into the early 80s, and then the resulting legislation changes and recovery of the populations. But really, anywhere we go, our birders are going to be working with local bird guides, local naturalist clubs to find out the highlights, find out the spots. They'll know this in advance, but also, dealing with the rare bird alerts, finding out what's rare in the region, and then transmitting that to you on a daily basis. Our birders will also be our ornithologists on staff will be hosting a session most evenings with those who have expressed a real keenness, especially those who are keeping life lists and so on, to discuss the birding highlights of that day, sort of recap them, as well as the potentials for the next day.
Fantastic, thank you, Aaron. Our next question comes from Bill in Canada, and he says, will any of the Great Lakes journeys stop in Windsor, Ontario, or just Detroit, Michigan?
Just Detroit, Michigan. And again, that has, for those of you that are not familiar with where these cities are, they're just opposite of each other along, the river that it is the connection between Lake Erie and Lake Huron. And we kind of have to take a pick. The timing that we have doesn't allow us to visit both cities, so we decided to focus on Detroit. Sorry, maybe some new itinerary we will spend more time in Canada.
If I can jump in, Joost, so one point of interest is our day before on the Toronto to Milwaukee departure, our day before Detroit is Point Pelee National Park, and which is really located quite close to Windsor on the Canadian side, on the North Shore of Lake Erie. So some of our activities, our excursion activities in the Point Pelee region, will incorporate some of the activities you'd also experience from Windsor. So there may be a bit of crossover that way. Well, the ship's not going directly into Windsor. We're in that part of Ontario.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question comes from Art in the United States, and he says, what can I do in Milwaukee pre or post cruise?
All right. Currently, we have a program just in Chicago, but we will likely we have a partner in Milwaukee who's really active in putting together lots of different things that we can do in Milwaukee on the days of where the ship turns around, and we're likely to publish an extension in Milwaukee, a few nights in Milwaukee with bells and whistles, so with things to do and with perhaps some meals included in the next few months.
Fantastic, thank you. Jerry in Austin says, when is the Octanus scheduled for its float out?
That's a good question. The Octantis is already floated. It's already floated out. That happened in the shipyard in Romania. And it's soon going to be transferred for its final fitting in Norway. So that ship is, that's there. It's not just a steel hull anymore. That it looks a lot like a ship.
It floats.
Yeah.
That's good news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry has another question. He says, will the Polaris be operating in the USA as well? He says, I'm a veteran of the US submarine George Washington, which carried Polaris missiles, so he has a fond admiration for the name.
Not right now. The Polaris is not scheduled to sail into the Great Lakes. No, sorry. But you'll enjoy the Polaris in other areas of the world, nonetheless.
Thank you, Joost. Our next question comes from John, and he says, are there any opportunities to go fishing on the lakes?
Aaron, I don't think we've built much yet, but we will, yes?
Yes. Yeah, there's some great fishing destinations and working with local tour operators. Of course, with the shutdown, as we all know, tourism as the small operators, the fishing guides and so on have been pretty quiet. They're coming back online now as things open up and we're able to set things up with them. So we will have some exciting opportunities, excursions planned. And fishing stories are just about as good as the sea condition stories where you talk about how high the waves are. The only one that can really equal is how long the fish was. So.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question comes from Ria in the United States, and she says, how long does it take to transit the Soo Locks? Will there be a commentary to explain what we're seeing?
Depends a little bit on what time of day it is, so that depends on the itinerary that you pick. Obviously, if we go through it very early in the morning or in the wee hours, then we will not do commentary. But yes, as we pass through them, it's several hours. It depends a little bit on the overall amount of traffic. But yes, we will. It's for that day, and if we can do it during the daylight, it's a highlight. So we will absolutely make sure that you get a good sense of what you're going through. Obviously, Viking cruises has its roots in river cruising, so we're very intimately familiar with locks. If locks are your things, you need to book the Toronto to Milwaukee itinerary, by the way, because that puts you through the Welland Canal. But I digress. We'll talk about the Welland Canal some other time.
Thank you, Joost. Our next question comes from Michael in Newburgh in the United States. And he says, my wife and I have got some future cruise credit due to a previous trip being cancelled. We were wondering if we could use this credit on a Great Lakes expedition cruise later in the year.
Of course. Yes. Easy, of course.
Fantastic, thank you. Our next question comes from Lewis in Pasadena, and he says, hi Joost, can a person who is slightly limited physically but is able to go up and down stairs using a handrail, will they be able to get in and out of the Zodiac boats and kayaks?
Aaron, I think I know this, Lewis. So I want to say yes, but you need to let me know if we can make that work.
Yes. So for yes, getting into the Zodiacs should not be a problem. We'll always have staff there to assist if any assistance is needed, and we take great pleasure in expanding the boundaries of those that do have limited mobility, that we want to get you into those regions. And it's always a pleasure for us when we're able to. In terms of the kayaks, in our own kayaks on the ship should be fine to get in and out of. They're a sit on top Hobie style, well, they're not Hobie style, Hobie pedal drive kayak. And so quite easy to sit down onto, very stable. In some of the places we won't be using especially on Lake Superior, the southern Lake Superior shoreline, we won't be using our own kayaks, and for those we'll be using sea kayaks provided by local outfitters. So it really depends. From that, it would be getting on into a kayak at a beach, and if you've done that before, then just let our guides know, and we'll make sure that you have that opportunity again. If you find a challenge with that, then talk to our guides, and they will help you decide whether it's the right activity for you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good.
Our next question comes from Ambrose in Mansfield, and he says, tell us more about the hiking opportunities around this itinerary.
Aaron, you want to take that? Hiking opportunities?
I certainly can, and I'll try not to ramble on this one as I've been thinking about some of the stops that we'll visit. My background, well, it seems to be mainly polar related. I'm a forester by training, and there's some really exciting hiking in some incredible state forest and managed forest on the Keweenaw Peninsula and on the southern shore of Superior, and so I'm very excited by the hiking opportunities. We'll have hikes from, gentle walks, I suppose you could call, around town and outside of communities into some of the conservation areas and state forests. You'll ask yourself whether this is the right decision for you, and our guides will have the information on the hikes, the elevation gains, the type of terrain to let you know in advance beforehand. So our hikes will range from probably an hour in length to generally we find a maximum of about a 3-hour hike is good, so that you still have energy for other activities that day. And then we provide that each evening. We will provide a bit of an overview of the next day's activities, and our guides will then talk about the hiking opportunities at that time for the next day.
Thank you, Aaron. And just on the other side of that question, we have one that just come in from Fran in the United States, and she says, I've heard the words walk, hike and kayak mentioned quite a lot, but she's wondering if this cruise is suitable for people in their late 70s who have some walking limitations. Would there still be interesting things for them to do each day?
Yes. Yeah. I would say that you will certainly, and look, I think given that we focus a little bit on the outdoors, the more mobile you are, the more you will be able to experience the entire breadth of the experience. But certainly there are things that you can do if you're not all that mobile. Absolutely. One of them is just, sailing on, being on deck or being in your stateroom. There's an awful lot to see. We have a lab on board. We have a lot of things on board where you can engage with people who know the region very intimately. And we have people on the ship that can make your half-hour drive through a forest or along a coastal stretch or through some old industrial mining sites. We have the experts on the ship that will make that into a fabulous experience. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joost. Carol in San Francisco asks, is the ship actually docking in the port of Milwaukee, or will it be in ports south of there, such as Racine, Kenosha, or Illinois?
Nope, Milwaukee. So it's somewhat of an industrial area, but it's not that far from the downtown area. You know that there's this little pier just off the museum, and that is too small for our vessel. But we'll have a very neat, newly renovated facility in Milwaukee. That it's a hop, skip, and a jump from the downtown area.
Fantastic, thank you. Dennis in Detroit says, is there a chance that the Isle Royale will be added to this cruise?
Yes, as an extension. You heard it here first. We're still working on it.
That's great news. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stanley in Silver Spring says, can you fly in a day early or stay a day late when you include the Viking Air option?
Yes. To get like a positioning night to make sure that you don't, that your luggage arrives with you and all that kind of good stuff. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Brittany in Parkland says, what kind of wildlife would I expect or might I see along this route?
Aaron, you're the forester here.
Yeah, that's a great question, and one I'm always hesitant to answer, and because I've been an expedition leader for so long, and I've had wonderful wildlife-filled voyages, and then other ones where the stars didn't align. But over the course of I suppose the biggest, most impressive animal we're likely to see would be moose, which are we'll see more likely we'd see in the spring and the fall, but through the summer we have a good chance. They out into open areas in the spring when it's bug season, trying to get out of the dense forest, get a bit of breeze to keep the bugs off them, and in the fall they tend to be a little more active during the rutting and mating season. It's possible that we'd see black bears. They're not as keen to see us as we are to see them, so we have to be watching. Some of the small, we might see fishers or weasels, otters, beaver around the waterways. In each area we go, we'll be working with the local guides in the area to maximize our wildlife viewing. I shouldn't leave the birds out. I'm hoping that bald eagles will be fairly common. Osprey, I think, are wonderful inhabitants of the Great Lake. So from birds of prey, a couple of favorites of mine are the red-winged blackbird, and the sound of a red-winged blackbird is to me the sound of kayaking on the Great Lakes. The white-throated sparrow has a call that once you hear it, you won't forget it, and so those are some of the other bits of wildlife we'll see. And really, we have spotting scopes on the ship. Every stateroom has a set of binoculars in them. Your cabins are really designed to be wildlife hides or bird hides with the full windows, the fact that the windows these Nordic balconies, that these windows can open down. And so you can do a lot of your wildlife viewing right from your cabin. But join us out on deck. Throughout the day, our staff, our naturalists, will be stationed on deck when the ship's moving. We'll let you know where those staff are, and we'll be helping. And really, our one rule we just have one really simple rule of thumb about wildlife watching, and And that is that the more eyes that are looking, the better the chance we have of seeing something. And when you do see something, let us know, and we'll make sure those who are out looking know about this wildlife. So that's from the ship transit point of view, and then from the shore excursion, we'll be tapping that local knowledge in each community we visit to find out where the highlights are.
Fantastic. Thank you, Aaron. This is a great question. It's a little off-piste. It's more relating to our expedition cruises in general. So Keith in Gulf Breeze in the United States, he says, I'm so excited about the new expedition cruises, especially to Antarctica. What would you say to your spouse if they were hesitant or reluctant to go due to the possible extreme weather conditions? Thank you.
Oh, I get to answer that because Aaron's wife travels with him to the most remote places in the world. And I have to do some convincing. This ship is designed for even for choppy weather, so it's not going to be all that bad. The climate, we travel to Antarctica in summer, we travel to Svalbard in summer, we travel to the Great Lakes in summer. This is how we move the ship around. So and the ship itself, and this is just something that I know that I'm promoting, but my own experience and my wife's experience, by the way, is that the ships just are so well made that you feel, even if you spend a half a day or a day indoors, it's really comfortable. The ships are designed for comfort. It's so, it sounds maybe somewhat of a cliche, but it is. You travel on our ships, and this is true for the expedition ship too. As we see it built, it's like, we're making this an experience that is good for everyone, not just for the people that are going to be on deck through wind and foul weather to see whales and to see porpoises. It's going to be great for people who want to see one whale and one porpoise and have a gin and tonic at the bar.
I'm going to jump in on this, Joost, as well, because I have been known to be seasick on crossings. And when I first started and getting my sea legs under me, my first trip across the Drake Passage, I swore I'd never go to sea again, and I was on a ship much smaller, much less designed or well designed for the type of crossing we were doing, and even if you do end up being seasick, I'm going to say the chances are low, but even if it does happen, the destinations, the places we're taking you to are worth a bit of discomfort, and the discomfort that you'll experience can be mainly sorted by lying in bed and catching up on the jet lag from flying and watching some of the incredible enrichment material we have on our TVs, the access. You'll be able to view many of the presentations that are given in our aula and our lecture hall that will be live streamed to your cabins, so that you're not really missing out. And when we are in a place to do an excursion, what's amazing about the discomfort that's felt from a moving ship is the instant the ship stops moving, the instant you recover. If doctors could fix every problem just by stopping a ship moving, fix them that quickly, it'd be a miracle. But that's really what happens with seasickness. So the instant we get into a sheltered bay, and we need to be in a sheltered area to launch our boats, our Zodiacs, the ship settles down and all of a sudden you're hungry again. And you're ready to go. Be a little tired, but don't let that dissuade you. I've been across the Drake Passage 120 voyages or 140 voyages to the Antarctic, and I've carried many passengers over the years across on ships that are far less comfortable than this one will be, and very few. I think I can count on one hand maybe the number of people that regretted it, despite the because of the seasickness. So don't let that be a dissuader.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Our next question comes from Linda in the United States, and she says, will there be any free time while in Houghton to explore the Michigan Tech area?
Yeah, because it's all very small. So, and we're still working on maybe visiting the museum there. There's a host of different things you can do there. I think we focus mainly, Aaron, on kind of the things that you can do outdoors. But when you're docked in Houghton itself, it's a walk. You can the town itself is not that big, and it's about a 20-minute walk. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic, thank you, Joost. Question from Henry in Utah, and he says, "Why is Thunder Bay called Thunder Bay?"
Gosh, that's a good question.
that's. I wish I had Paul from Thunder Bay on speed dial right now to ask him that question. I don't know, but that is something I am going to look into. Why precisely it has that name. I'm stumped.
Sandy in the United States says, "How many people are on the expedition ships?"
378 guests.
Thank you. And then a similar question comes from Matilda in St. Bruno, and she says, "Can you tell us a bit more about the ships? How are they similar to Viking's ocean ships?"
Yeah, so what we've done with this ship is we basically said, okay, this ship needs to be the best expedition ship it can be. And at the same time, we want all those fantastic things that our guests appreciate on an ocean ship. We want that too. And that's how we set about creating these ships. So the same team that designed the ocean ship has designed these ships with a lot of input from people like Aaron and like Jörn, who you've seen in some of the videos we have. We've had expedition experts brought in and have them sit with our ship experts, if you will, our building experts, and said, look, these are the two things that we want to marry. So there are a lot of features in the stateroom that you will recognize. There are a lot of features in the public areas that you will recognize. And there will be brand spanking new public areas. The Expedition Central is a space that we don't have on the ocean ships. And it's dedicated to interacting with the exploration team. But there's Manfredi's. That will be an experience that is very much like, a dining experience that's very much like you would be on an ocean ship. We have the restaurant. The World Cafe is going to be on the expedition ship. It's probably going to be like an even better experience as we have on ocean. So we really, it sounds very simple, but it's hard to do. But the approach is very simple. We take the best things that we have on the ocean ship, and we see how much of that we can squeeze into a ship that is purpose-built, that needs all these other things to work in order for us to have a fantastic an expedition experience. You'll feel right at home. You will.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joost. And just going back to our earlier question, we've kindly had a comment from Danielle in Orion Charter Township, and she just has told us, so in Thunder Bay, when the Europeans arrived in the 17th century, the local inhabitants called this site Anamiki, which translates as thunder. So now we know.
Now we know. Thank you.
Okay. Tommy in the United States asks, how do you sign up to have a go on one of the submarines?
The same way you sign up for everything else. The way we will do this is we will try to get everyone to do everything that we have on the ship as much as possible. Now, weather plays into all of this. You need good weather for certain activities, and so while we can't guarantee it, we endeavor to have as many people and participate in all the activities we can provide, and then we do what we do on ocean as well. We kind of work with cabin categories. We keep wait lists and so on and so forth. We actually, before you travel with us, we have a questionnaire that we ask you to fill out where we can kind of gauge your preferences. And everyone gets to say, okay, well, what I really, really, really want to do is kayak, let's say. I would also like to be in a submarine, but I'm not fussed, let's say, about a tour of the lab or doing some science work, or it could be the other way around. What we're trying to do is cater as much as possible to your individual wants and needs.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, Joost. Janet in Fort Lauderdale says, I've been on the Viking V on the Danube and everything was amazing. On the Great Lakes itinerary, will the chefs be creating any dishes with locally grown foods?
Of course. Of course. We're having great debates about this. Because some of the things are, this itinerary goes to Bayfield. Bayfield is known for its whitefish liver. It's deep fried whitefish liver. Somewhat of an acquired taste. So, we have raging debates about how far we will push this, but we will absolutely have locally sourced, locally inspired food, along with the kind of food that you expect on a Viking vessel. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Debbie in the United States says, when will the schedule for the 2023 sailings be available?
Few months from now.
Great, thank you very much. CJ in the United States asks, is there any evening entertainment on board?
Yes, Aaron, tell more about the evening entertainment that you will provide if you were on the ship.
Yeah, so there's some more classic, I suppose you could call classic evening entertainment. There'll be a couple of musicians on the ship that they'll be playing live in the Explorer's Lounge and some of the venues around the ship. But this is also with the expedition. You get we staff the ship with guides and naturalists. We sometimes call them eccentrics. And the one thing you can guarantee is that they have stories to tell. And every evening, one of the staff members, one of the guides or naturalists or expedition leaders will be sharing stories from their time. Might be relevant to the region. It might be just a great story to hear about their time in the polar regions or in expedition cruising, some of their personal experiences. And we call those expedition diaries. And so those happen each evening. We've also got quite a broad selection of sort of pre-made content, documentaries that'll be relevant that we're curating from the region. They'll be relevant to the region to enrich you, to add to the knowledge that our own experts on board the ship will provide. So there's quite a bit to do. There will be some of you that will be tired by the end of a day and look for a quick entertainment and then going to bed so they're ready for the next day. So you're ready for the next day's activities as well.
Yeah.
So there'll be lots to see.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Deborah in Philadelphia says, since most of these ports will be on a maiden cruise, will there be any special events held?
Yes, but those tend to be smallish, if you will, and they're largely ceremonial. I think what you will find in general, but this is not just the maiden voyages. I mean, there will be plaques, and the captain will be seen a lot shaking hands with dignitaries. But I think, it's an interesting question. I think for the first few cruises, people in the Great Lakes are so excited about this that every one of our port calls will feel like an event. Because it is. It's a big event and we work quite extensively with small local operators, with small local businesses. A town like Bayfield has about as many inhabitants as we have guests on the ship. So to the town, it's a very big event when we're there. And that's exactly in that vein we work with local operators to make sure that it is, that it becomes a very happy event. So it'll be a little festive in a lot of places, but almost, I would say, by default.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joost. We've got two more questions about food. I'll just read them out together because they're quite similar. So Tina in Goldsboro says, do you offer something similar to the kitchen table on this ship, perhaps a foresting version? And Jeff in El Segundo says, do you have cooking classes on the ship? I would like to learn to make Cornish Upper Peninsula pasties.
We're somewhat more limited on the space that we have, but we're certainly looking into, we will do the same thing that we always do, which is we make the food part of the experience. And we have done this on the river ships that are half the size of the expedition ship. So while I cannot make any promises, and while I cannot necessarily right now say that you will come away from your cruise being an expert on Cornish pasties, we will certainly have food-related events on the ship, absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you. Dee in Canada says, I live on the place where the Ottawa River and the St. Lawrence River join, and I'm excited that the Great Lakes are finally available with Viking. What else might be added to these itineraries besides the Isle that you mentioned? So that was the Isle of
Isle Royale.
Isle Royale, yes.
Isle Royale, that's right. Sorry.
I think, this is an inaugural season is always, an attempt to cover the big things and then see how well this is accepted in the marketplace and how well we can work with this. And already in the planning phase, we have started to ideate about perhaps longer cruises on the Great Lakes, spending more time here, spending more time there. We do travel very extensively in these regions before we put the itineraries together. And believe it or not, the art of putting together itineraries is not what you put in, it's what you leave out. And that's quite often quite painful, because I at least this is how, Aaron, I don't know, you need to tell me also, but don't you agree that you go to these places and I always go like, oh, we could do this and we could do that, and you make notes everywhere you go, and then you come home and you're like, okay. And now the sad part starts, because now we need to no, we don't have time for this. No, sorry, we don't have time for that. And you save all this. This does not end up on the cutting room floor. This is just for later, for season 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree totally. It's very hard to fit 61 days of excursions into a 7-night cruise. And I haven't found a marketing team or a sales team that's happy with my 61-day itineraries that I put together. But that's exactly it. There's so much in each region, so we struggle with that.
Thank you. Question from Howard in Burke in the United States. He says, I'm currently booked on the Octanus inaugural voyage from New York to Ontario. How difficult would it be to extend the Niagara and Great Lakes cruise in the same stateroom?
Call the call center and find out. Those first cruises tend to go relatively quickly, so it's possible that you might not find the exact same stateroom, but maybe they can wiggle it in such a way that you may not keep the stateroom you currently have, but get one in the same category that's maybe a little further in the back or further in the front, and just find out.
Thank you, Joost. Stephanie in Hesperia in the United States says, we are scheduled on the Viking Niagara and Great Lakes in June 2022. Will we be doing a presentation on that itinerary?
Aaron, are you going to do a presentation on that itinerary?
I would be happy to.
Good. Deal.
Great. We will get that one scheduled in. I think that's pretty much all the questions we've had tonight. We'll end on a good one, which has come in from Stephen in Everett in the United States. So he says, there are at least 2 different itineraries on the Great Lakes. How and why should I choose one over the other?
You shouldn't. You should do all 3 of them. Aaron, do you want to take do you want to give a less facetious answer?
No, I think that is the best answer. I mean, each one is so dramatically different. The region, we talk about the Great Lakes as one area, one thing, but each region of the Great Lakes is so different. So I think you really need to assess what it is you're looking for, what you're looking to experience. And if it's just a greater understanding of the whole area, then you need to do them all, I'm sorry to say. But if there's a specific request you have, our teams our sales teams are very experienced in answering these questions, and they can help direct you to the right itinerary if it's just one that you need to do or one that you have time to do.
Out of the three, which is your favorite?
Well, I should say this one because I presented on it today. But I did in the intro. I mentioned that I came from Georgian Bay to expedition cruising in 1998, and so I think I would have to say that at this point my favorite is in the planning stage is the Great Lakes Explorer that starts in Milwaukee and ends in Thunder Bay, and I just love the time we've built into exploring Georgian Bay. 3 days in Georgian Bay, which I have some roots in that area, so. I'm excited about that, but they're all fantastic itineraries and all just a little bit different.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you both for your time tonight. That's, I think, all the questions we've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for signing in today. And I just am going to put a plug in for tomorrow's Viking.TV episode because I'm quite excited about it. I've got it blocked in my calendar. Anne Diamond will be interviewing Don Walsh and his son Kelly Walsh, and I think it's fascinating. Don dove to the Challenger Deep in 1960, and his son replicated that. I think it was last year in 2020, and I'm just really excited to hear their stories of exploring the depths, the deepest depths of the ocean. So thank you for signing in and listening today.